Adrian Cole made the cruelest decision of his life the moment he forced his dying ex-wife onto the stage at his wedding. The ballroom glowed under soft golden lights. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above hundreds of perfectly dressed guests. Laughter drifted through the air. Glasses clinked. Everything looked flawless. Too flawless. And then the doors opened. Naomi Carter rolled in slowly. Silence followed her like a shadow. Her head was bare, smooth, fragile, a thin scarf barely covering the truth everyone could already see. Her body looked smaller than it should, swallowed by the wheelchair beneath her. Her hands trembled in her lap, her eyes, still alive but tired, so tired. People shifted in their seats. Some whispered, some looked away. Adrian stood at the front, beside his beautiful bride, Lila Monroe. She looked like something out of a magazine. Perfect hair, perfect skin, perfect smile. He didn't move. He just watched Naomi, watched the woman who had once held him together, now barely holding herself up. This was the plan. 300 guests, every one of them watching, every one of them seeing the difference. Him, strong, successful, untouchable. Her broken, forgotten, left behind. Proof that he had moved on, moved up, left her where she belonged. Naomi's wheelchair stopped at the center of the stage. The microphone stood in front of her, adjusted just low enough. For a moment, she didn't touch it. Her fingers hovered in the air, shaking. The room held his breath. Adrian smiled faintly, a quiet signal. Play your part. Naomi looked up, not at the guests, not at the bride, at him. And something in her gaze didn't match the script. Because Adrian forgot one thing. When you give a woman with nothing left to lose a microphone and a few minutes in the light, she doesn't sing what you expect. She sings the truth. Adrian Cole loved the way people looked at him. He stepped out of a sleek black car, the city lights reflecting off its polished surface like a mirror. Heads turned. They always did. His suit fit perfectly, every line sharp, every detail controlled. Even his shoes caught the light. Perfect. Inside the building, people were already waiting. Some stood a little straighter when they saw him. Some smiled too quickly. Others whispered his name under their breath, like it meant something. And it did. He had built something out of nothing. That was the story. That was the image. A man who rose. A man who conquered. Adrian walked through the lobby without rushing. He never rushed. Power didn't hurry. Power made people wait. Mr. Cole, a young man said, stepping forward nervously. I've been following your work. It's incredible. Adrian gave a small nod, just enough. He liked that. The admiration, the hunger in their eyes. The way they leaned in, hoping for a word, a glance, a piece of him. But it wasn't just success he loved. It was how success looked. The right watch. The right people. The right woman on his arm. Everything polished, everything flawless. Because behind all of it, there was something else. Fear. Not fear of losing money, not fear of failure. Fear of being seen as weak. Fear of being small again. He remembered those days, the cheap couch, the closed doors, the voices that said no, gone, buried, never again. Adrian adjusted his cuff, catching his reflection in the glass wall beside him. Strong, sharp, untouchable. That was the man he had become. That was the man the world saw. And he would do anything to keep it that way. Naomi Carter saw him before the world ever did. The room was small, warm, filled with the soft hum of voices and the smell of fresh bread and coffee. A church gathering, nothing special. Just people talking, laughing, trying to get through another week. Adrian stood near the back, quiet, tired, invisible. His shirt was wrinkled, his shoes worn down at the edges. He kept his hands in his pockets like he didn't know where else to put them. No one was looking at him. No one cared. And then Naomi walked over. Do you want more cornbread? She asked gently, her voice soft, steady. Adrian looked up, really looked. Her smile was simple, real. Not forced. Her eyes held something he hadn't seen in a long time. Warmth. He nodded slowly. Yeah, thank you. She handed him the plate. Their fingers brushed for just a second. Something shifted. They started talking, small things at first. Then longer conversations. Then coffee after church. Then long walks where the city noise faded and it was just the two of them. Naomi listened. Not like the others who waited to speak. She listened like what he said mattered. "You're going to make it," she told him one evening, standing under a flickering streetlight. Adrian let out a quiet laugh. "No one else thinks that." "I'm not everyone else," she said. And she wasn't. Naomi saw something in him that the world had missed. Not just his ambition, not just his plans, his hunger, his fire. And instead of walking away, she stepped closer, 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 until his broken dreams became hers too. Naomi Carter gave everything before anyone else gave him anything. She woke up before the sun, every day. The room was still dark when she slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Adrian. The air was cold, quiet. She tied her shoes slowly, her body already tired before the day even began. Then she worked. Long shifts at the care facility. 12 hours on her feet, lifting, cleaning, comforting strangers who needed her strength more than she needed her own rest. She smiled anyway, always smiled. At night, she came home exhausted. But she didn't stop. She cooked simple meals, rice, beans, whatever they could afford. Adrian would sit at the small table, head in his hands, papers spread out in front of him. "I don't think this is going to work," he muttered one night. Naomi placed a plate in front of him. "Eat first," she said softly. Then she sat beside him. "Not in front, not above, beside. I believe in you," she whispered, and she meant it. When money ran out, Naomi sold her grandmother's jewelry, pieces she had promised to keep forever. She didn't cry when she handed them over. She just smiled and said, "We'll get it back one day." She skipped meals so Adrian wouldn't have to. Wore the same few outfits again and again so he could buy one good suit, the kind that made people listen. She paid his application fees, signed papers that made her hands shake, loans that could ruin her if things went wrong. Still she signed. Every morning she prayed over him. Every night she held him together. And Adrian would look at her, eyes wet, voice low. When we make it, the whole world is going to know your name." Naomi smiled. She believed him. She always did. Success came fast. Too fast. One deal turned into two. Two turned into 10. Money started moving in numbers Adrian had never even imagined before. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. People who once ignored him now waited for his call. Doors opened everywhere. He walked into rooms now, and people stood up. Different rooms, different people, different rules. Luxury penthouses, private clubs, soft music, low voices, women in perfect dresses, men in perfect suits. Everything polished, everything controlled. Adrian fit in, or at least he learned how to. New friends pulled him deeper into that world. "You need to upgrade everything," one of them said, laughing lightly. "Image is everything at this level." Image. That word stayed. It echoed. And slowly, quietly, something began to change. Naomi didn't change. She still wore simple dresses, still worked at the cafeteria because she liked being around children, still sang on Sundays with the same soft voice that once held him together, still the same. But now Adrian saw her differently, or maybe he chose to. At parties, he stopped bringing her. "It's just business, baby," he said, avoiding her eyes. "You'd be bored." At dinners, he introduced her quickly. Too quickly. "This is Naomi," he would say, already turning away. No story, no pride, no mention of everything she had done. Just a name, nothing more. Naomi noticed. Of course she noticed. The pauses, the distance. The way his hand no longer reached for hers in public. The way his smile faded just a little when she walked into a room. But she said nothing. She told herself he was tired, stressed, adjusting. So she kept loving him, kept believing, kept standing beside a man who was already slowly stepping away. The word came quietly. Advanced. It didn't sound loud. It didn't echo. But it stayed. It sat in the room like something heavy, something final. Naomi stared at the doctor. The office smelled too clean. White walls, bright lights, a clock ticking somewhere behind her, each second louder than the last. "I'm so sorry," the doctor said gently. "It's ovarian cancer. Stage 4. It has already spread." Naomi didn't move, didn't blink. The words kept coming. Surgery, chemotherapy, treatment plans, time frames, months, maybe longer, maybe not. But Naomi couldn't hear any of it. Just that one word. Advanced. She sat in her car for a long time after, hands on the steering wheel, eyes fixed ahead. The world outside kept moving. People walked past. Cars drove by. Life continued like nothing had changed, but everything had. When she finally walked into the apartment, Adrian was on his phone, talking business, smiling, laughing. She stood there, waiting. He ended the call. Looked at her. "What's wrong?" he asked, distracted. Naomi swallowed. "I'm sick," she said softly. "It's cancer." Silence, not the kind that holds you, the kind that pushes you away. Adrian went still. His face didn't fall, didn't break. It just emptied. "We'll figure it out," he said. Flat, distant, like she had told him something minor, something temporary. Naomi waited. For his arms, for his voice to change, for something, anything. But he didn't move, didn't step closer, didn't touch her. And in that moment, standing in the apartment she helped build, Naomi felt it. Not the sickness, not yet. Something colder, something sharper. The beginning of being alone. The hair came out first. Small strands at the beginning, on the pillow, in the shower drain, on her fingers when she tried to brush it gently, then more. Clumps. Naomi stood in front of the mirror one morning, holding a handful of what used to be hers. Her hands trembled. Her reflection stared back at her, hollow, unfamiliar, gone. Everything that once made her feel like herself, slipping away. The treatments were brutal. Days blurred into nights. Nausea that wouldn't stop. Pain that lived deep inside her bones. Some mornings she couldn't even sit up. The room spun. The air felt too heavy to breathe. And Adrian wasn't there. "I have meetings," he said, grabbing his keys without looking at her. "I have to travel," he added another time, already halfway out the door. His absence filled the apartment louder than any argument. When he was home, he stayed distant, always on his phone, always busy, always somewhere else, even when he was right in front of her. Naomi tried. "I'm sorry," she whispered one night, her voice weak. "I know this is hard." Adrian didn't answer, didn't even look at her. Weeks passed, then months. Her body shrank. Her strength disappeared. The mirror became something she avoided. And one afternoon, in a hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and silence, Adrian walked in, a folder in his hand. He didn't sit down, didn't come close, just stood there like a stranger. "I can't do this anymore," he said. Naomi blinked slowly. "Can't do what?" He gestured vaguely. "The room or body, the machines. This," he repeated. "I need a partner, not a patient." The words hit hard, too hard. "I gave everything for you," she whispered. "That was your choice," he said. Cold, final. The pen slipped in her fingers as she signed. And just like that, he was gone. Not later, not slowly, gone, leaving her behind before she was even gone herself. The apartment was on the third floor. No elevator. Of course. Naomi sat at the bottom of the stairs, staring up. The hallway smelled like old food and cheap cleaner. The walls were stained. The lights flickered. Home. Mama Grace stood beside her, hands on her hips. "We'll take it slow," she said softly. Step by step, lift, pause, breathe, again. By the time they reached the door, Naomi's body was shaking. Not just from the effort, from everything she had lost. Inside, the room was small. One window, one bed, a table that leaned slightly to the side. It wasn't much, but it was all she had now. Adrian's world, gone, replaced with silence. Mama Grace moved around the space like she belonged there, opening windows, wiping surfaces, setting things straight. "You're not alone," she said. Naomi nodded. But when night came, it didn't feel that way. The ceiling stared back at her, cracked, still, empty. Outside, life continued. Cars passed, people laughed. Somewhere music played, normal life, a life she no longer belonged to. Her phone sat beside her. She picked it up once, twice, scrolled to his name. Stopped. He had blocked her, erased her, like she had never existed. Some nights she cried until her chest hurt. Other nights nothing came at all. Just emptiness, heavy, quiet. And the pain, always there, deep, constant, unforgiving. But one thing remained, her voice, soft at first, barely above a whisper. A song her grandmother used to sing, slow, steady, familiar. Naomi closed her eyes, sang again. The room didn't change. The pain didn't stop. The world didn't slow down. But for a moment, just a moment, she felt it. Something small, something fragile, still alive inside her. Still there, still her. The phone rang in the middle of the afternoon. Naomi almost didn't answer. Unknown number. She stared at the screen, her fingers hovering, her breath shallow. It kept ringing. Once, twice. Again. She picked it up. Hello? Her voice came out thin, fragile, Mrs. Carter, a man said, smooth and professional. My name is Daniel Brooks. I'm calling on behalf of Adrian Cole. Silence. Her grip had tightened on the phone. Adrian. After everything, his name still landed heavy. I don't understand, she whispered. Mr. Cole is getting married in 6 weeks, the man continued, his tone calm, almost rehearsed. It will be a very high-profile event, media coverage, hundreds of guests, and he would like to extend a special invitation to you. Naomi felt her stomach twist. An invitation? She repeated slowly. Yes, the man said, but not as a guest. A pause. Long enough to hurt. He would like you to perform, to sing at the wedding. Naomi closed her eyes. There it was. Not kindness, not regret. Cruelty dressed up nicely. He believes it would be inspiring, the man added, to see you, despite your condition, celebrating his new beginning. Her chest tightened. She could already see it. The lights, the whispers, the eyes. Her on display. Absolutely not, Tashi said, her voice shaking but firm. Another pause, then softer. Mrs. Carter, the man said, his tone shifting. I've been informed about your treatment situation, about your financial difficulty. Mr. Cole is prepared to offer compensation. Naomi didn't speak. $10,000, he said. The number hung in the air, heavy, real. 10,000, not enough to save her, but enough to buy time, more treatments, more days, more chances. Her hand trembled. What does that buy me? She asked quietly. A chance, the man replied. The line went silent. Naomi lowered the phone slowly. Tears slid down her face. How dare he, she whispered. But that night, lying in the dark, staring at the ceiling, she kept hearing it. A chance. 3 days later, she called back. I'll do it, she said, and something inside her shifted. Naomi Carter began to write. Late at night, early in the morning. Whenever the pain loosened its grip just enough for her to think. A notebook rested on her lap, pages thin, edges worn. Her hands trembled as she held the pen, but she didn't stop. Line after line, truth after truth. I was there when you had nothing. She paused, breathed, wrote again. Words poured out of her like something breaking open. Not pretty, not polished. Real. She wrote about the long nights, the empty fridge, the prayers whispered over a man who barely believed in himself. She wrote about the first time he walked away from her in a crowded room. The first time he didn't touch her. The first time she felt invisible. Her pen pressed harder. She wrote about the hospital, the cold sheets, the machines, the silence, the way he looked at the wall instead of her, the way he said, I need a partner, not a patient. Her hands shook, but she kept writing. Mama Grace sat nearby sometimes, quiet, watching. You don't have to carry it all inside, she said softly. Naomi nodded. I won't, she replied. Days passed. Then weeks, the notebook filled, then another, and another, until one night the words changed. Not just pain, something stronger. I am still here. Naomi read the line out loud. Her voice cracked, weak, unsteady. But there was something in it, something that didn't break. They began to practice. Mama Grace played a soft piano track from her phone. Naomi closed her eyes and sang. The first time, her voice trembled. The second time, it held. The third time, something rose. Not anger, not sadness. Something deeper, something that had survived everything. You hear that? Mama Grace whispered, tears in her eyes. Naomi nodded slowly. I hear it, she said. She wasn't preparing to perform. She wasn't preparing to impress. She was preparing to tell the truth. And this time, everyone would listen. The lights were too bright. Naomi blinked as the curtain opened, her wheelchair rolling slowly onto the stage. The ballroom stretched out in front of her, hundreds of faces, perfectly dressed, perfectly still. Whispers, soft, sharp. Is that her? She looks. No one finished the sentence. At the head table, Adrian sat beside Lila Monroe, his arm resting lightly around her waist. He smiled when their eyes met. A small nod, remember. Naomi gripped the microphone. Her hands trembled. For a second, she said nothing. Then I was your foundation when you had nothing at all. The piano began, soft, slow, heads turned. I worked while you dreamed, I paid while you planned. The room shifted. People leaned forward. Adrian's smile didn't move, but his jaw tightened. Naomi kept going. I held you up when the world pushed you down, but when I fell, you walked away. A fork dropped somewhere in the room. A sharp sound. Too loud. Lila glanced at Adrian. Confusion. Doubt. Naomi's voice grew stronger. Not loud. Clear. You left when my hair fell. You left when my body broke. A woman covered her mouth. Someone else whispered, "Oh my God," phones lifted. Recording. Not for fun now. For truth. Adrian stood suddenly. That's enough. But the music didn't stop. Naomi didn't stop. I signed those papers with poison in my veins while you built a new life from the one I gave. The silence turned heavy, uncomfortable, real. Then the chorus. I am still here, her voice cracked, but it didn't fall. I am still here, stronger. I am still stop. Adrian shouted, stepping forward. A hand grabbed his arm. Lila, sit down, she whispered. Naomi looked straight at him. No fear, no hesitation, just truth. And you wanted this moment to make you look kind. The last note faded. Silence. Then a sob. Another. Someone stood. Clapped. Slow. Then faster. More people stood. More hands. More tears. The room broke open. And Adrian sat there. Still. Exposed. Lila Monroe was the first to move. She stood up slowly. Her chair scraping against the floor. The sound cut through the applause like something breaking. Her mascara had started to run. Just a little. Enough to ruin the perfect image. She walked toward the stage, step by step. Heels clicking, eyes locked on Naomi. The room went quiet again. Adrian reached for her arm. Lila, don't. She pulled away, hard. I didn't know, she said, her voice shaking as she reached Naomi's side. I swear I didn't know. Naomi looked at her, really looked. And for the first time, she didn't see perfection. She saw truth. Lila turned, facing the crowd, facing the cameras. This wedding is over, gasps. Sharp, loud. Adrian froze. What are you doing? What I should have done the moment I heard the truth, she said coldly. She pulled the ring from her finger, dropped it. It hit the floor, a small sound. But final. You used her, Lila said, pointing at Naomi. You used a dying woman to make yourself look good. Silence, then chaos, phones everywhere. Voices rising, people standing. Someone shout, start a fundraiser. Lila grabbed her phone, hands shaking. I'm setting it up right now, she said, for her treatment, for Naomi. Numbers began to climb, fast, thousands, then more. People stepped forward, offering help, money, connections. The room changed, from spectacle to something real. Naomi sat in her wheelchair, overwhelmed, hands reaching for her, voices around her, tears falling freely. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't invisible. And Adrian? He stood alone, in a room full of people who once admired him. Now they looked at him differently. Cold, distant, done. Weeks passed. The videos spread everywhere. Millions watched, millions listened. Money came in. Treatment began. Pain followed. But so did something else. Hope. Months later, Naomi stood on a small stage in the sunlight. No wheelchair. Short curls framing her face. Alive. I was supposed to die, she said softly. But I didn't. The crowd cheered. Naomi smiled. Not broken, not forgotten. Still here and just beginning.